Hello, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see you again this year. Yes, and this year I will talk about improvements in the upcoming Zabbix 7. Yes, I will have a little bit more technical talk. First, this feature is really not 7.0, it is 6.4, but it's also very important and it was never discussed before in Summit, at least. So, pre-processing. Yes, pre-processing is very important part of Zabbix. Yes, because you collect data and there are a lot of scenarios when you need to do some transformations. You may transform objects, or maybe you need to extract something. So it's very important. And it's performed by both Zabbix server and proxies. Next, so how it works. First, every single value you collect goes through pre-processing. Yes, it doesn't matter, maybe you don't have any pre-processing steps, but it goes through these pre-processings. And we had a small problem with the previous implementation. So let's say this is a queue, and we are performing simple pre-processing. We are transforming different geometric objects to circles. Yes, we have pentagons, we have hexagons, we have more complex objects, and pre-processing need to transform everything to round circles. Let's see how it works. So everything which is transformed and goes to history. And we have 3 preprocessors which are working in parallel. Looks good. Now, after some time passes, those objects are processed, and the 3 preprocessors will move to the next objects. But this one has some troubles, because you can see this geometric figure is a little bit more complex, and it requires more time. And after some time, this may happen. So those preprocessors will process more and more and more objects, and those objects will be waiting, but there is something blocking them. Yes? And sometimes on bigger instances that becomes a problem. Can you add more preprocessors? You can. Will it help in this situation? Not really, as you can see. Yeah? Okay, so you need to wait, and once this is preprocessed, okay, everything goes to history cache. So this is how it looks in Zabbix. Yes, this is a pre-processing queue, and you can see all those spikes. Yes, what means those spikes? There are thousands of objects waiting to be processed, waiting to be flushed into history cache. Yes, and you may have some delays in monitoring. So, how we solved the problem in 6.4? Yes, which is already, by the way, available for production. We implemented multiple queues. Yes, and the actual technical implementation is not so simple. Yes, I have a very simplified version on my slides, but it's enough to understand. So let's say we have the same situation. Yes, some objects are processed, and some objects are waiting to be processed. What we did? We introduced another queue, and now it looks completely different. Everything which is processed goes to the processed items queue, and it is flushed to the database immediately. Yeah? So, you still have some issues here, yes, and you will still need to wait longer for this item to be processed. But that's not really a problem, okay? This is item which takes a little bit longer time to be processed. It is not blocking anything, yes? So just by performing upgrade, this is the same instance, before upgrade and after upgrade. You can see, no queue, yes? Everything works just flawlessly. So, yeah, and the last thing, don't forget, you still need some tuning. Yes, the preprocessors are still busy. Yes, so you may need more than the default 3. Yes, you may need to increase. Okay, but let's move to more interesting features upcoming of version 7. So asynchronous data polling, how it works and what means asynchronous and why it's much better. In Zabbix, you have all different kinds of data collectors. Yes, you have pollers, you have trappers, you have pingers. And as Alex had told, everything currently is a process. Yes, process-based monitoring. Every data collector is a single process which can collect only a single metric at once. We have introduced a new poller types. Yes, so in 6, poller is quite universal. Yes, poller is collecting SNMP, poller is collecting metrics from Zabbix agent, poller is collecting metrics from HTTP. So this is 6. In 7, we introduced, okay, in 7 we have the same poller. The poller still says, but we introduced 3 more processes. Yes, 3 more, let's say, data collectors. Yes, we have SNMP poller, agent poller, and HTTP agent poller. And we still have a poller for some simple checks. And if you will upgrade Zabbix to version 7, you will notice that you also have new configuration settings. Yes, you have start SNMP pollers, and you look here, just a single one. Yes, then you will have Zabbix agent pollers, and also just a single one. And the same is HTTP agent pollers, also just one. Yes, and every of those types are optimized. Yes, so if you go back some slides, so SNMP poller type is optimized to work with SNMP. Yes, and agent poller knows how to work with agent better. Yes, and HTTP agent knows how to work with web pages. Yes, so they are more specific. And there is another parameter. Maximum concurrent checks per poller, 1,000. So in very simple words, it means that each of those pollers can act like 1,000 pollers. How it's implemented? So each poller is a synchronous process. Yes, and it can collect up to 1,000 values at once. Also, it starts a separate thread to synchronize configuration, but that's not so important currently. And yeah, so what is asynchronous data collection? Yes, that's a programming concept which allows you to execute tasks independently of each other. Okay, let's take a look. So what is the difference between Zabbix 6 and Zabbix 7? Yes, how the data collection will be performed. Okay, so this is the synchronous data collection. Yes, using processes. We send request, we get response. We send request, we get response. Yes, and this is basically how it works. And you can see that there is a lot of waiting time. Yes, you are sending request and you are waiting for answer. You are sending request and you are waiting for answer. And this is why you need those hundreds and hundreds of pollers. And now let's take a look how it works asynchronously. We are just sending requests, sending requests, and then we are receiving some responses. Yes, but maybe just some of them. Maybe other objects have not responded. Yes, and we are sending more requests, and we are getting more responses, and so on. Yes, so those processes are quite independent. Yes, the poller is sending requests as fast as it can, and then using callback functions, the responses are sent back. Yes, you can see even the order is different. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the first request responded, and then the fourth, and the third, and so on. Yeah, so this is fully asynchronous, and it is much more efficient. You can see here. Yes, this is Zabbix 6. I have 20 pollers, and they are like 50% busy, approximately, yes, and collecting a lot of values. You see, all of them are constantly doing something. And let's take a look at 7. So this is Zabbix 7. Look here. We have replaced them with a single agent poller, which is collecting 2,400 values in 5 seconds. Yes, it is the same performance as on previous slide. Yes, and then we have a couple of pollers left for other tasks. Yes, so you can also see that we have decreased the number of processes. Yes, and in this situation, smaller is better. And okay, let's look at Zabbix's own graphs. So this is Zabbix 6. Yes, and you can see the utilization. So it is actually very nicely optimized instance. Yes, 40% pollers busy for Zabbix 6 is a very good practice. And this is what happened after the upgrade. So we no longer need pollers, right? Because pollers are replaced by agent poller. So all those pollers are no longer busy, and we have a single agent poller process currently at approximately 10% busy. So it can do more. Yeah? So at the very end, what you will have less processes, right? Faster monitoring, and you will not need, so let's say you will need less tuning. Yes, because currently you need to increase those numbers. Do I need 50 pollers? Do I need 200 pollers? Yes. In this situation, 1, maybe 2, and you are pretty safe. Okay, and very quickly about proxy memory buffer. Alexei already told about it. So in 7, we will have 3 modes. We will have the disk mode, which is the current behavior. We will have the memory mode, and we will have a hybrid. Yes? So how they work? The disk mode is the current mode in version 6. Yes, you have a proxy. All the data are written into database, and then from the database, the data are sent. Yes, and I think you can clearly see a potential bottleneck here. Memory mode. So we are sending data directly from Proxy to Zabbix server, and okay, do I need a database here? Nope. Yes, I don't need any database. Yes, so this can be very effective on smaller devices where it's very expensive to have a database, yes, or on larger proxies, because there is no more any limits by read-writes. There is some kind of risk, of course, yes, because everything happens in real time, everything happens in memory, and if you run out of memory or in some other situations, you may lose some data. Yes, you may lose some data because there is nowhere to store them, just in memory. So we have a third mode. We have a hybrid where data are sent to Zabbix server directly, but if there are some situations when you need a buffer, if you're running out of memory, you have an option to save it to database. Yes? So actually for some serious big proxies, I think this will be the recommended mode. Yeah? When you have very fast data transfer, but if you need, you can still save the data. Okay, and item level timeout. So this is also a very known problem. Yes, so a general timeout for every Zabbix item. Yes, and the biggest problem was like you have just a single very slow item, and because of that single very slow item, you need to increase timeout for entire Zabbix. Yes. So what we changed? We introduced item level timeout. Yes, when you can specify a timeout on item level, and you can do using graphical user interface. So you don't need access to SSH, you don't need to restart Zabbix server, you just open the Zabbix frontend and change it. Also, some people will love it. Look here, 600 seconds. Yeah, so, because the previous limit was 30 seconds, which was not enough sometimes. Now you have 10 minutes. And this is how you can define them. Yes, we will offer you 3 levels. So, okay, this is global. This is a global administration general where you will define the timeout for all the item types. You are not seeing here all the item types because some items doesn't have timeouts, like trappers or internal checks. Yeah, but for all others you can define here, and those numbers here will appear after the upgrade. Yes, you will upgrade, and your timeout from here will move here. So nothing will be broken. Yes, and then you can start tuning. Then the timeout is also inherited on all proxies. Yes, so you can see global timeouts, grayed out fields, but you can override. Yeah, you can see here. You just click the override, and you can override. Yes, so you can tune timeouts per proxy. And now, every item monitored by that proxy will have a little bit different setup. And if you need even more tuning, you can go to item. The item form also have a timeout, and you can override it. Yes, so you can just go to one single item, which is very slow, and you can override and change it. So this should be really, really great. Yeah, and yeah, there is last question. So now, what happens with this timeout? Are we just, removing it or what? We are not removing it. Yes, so as I said, when you upgrade, it will become the default, and then we will keep this timeout setting as timeout for communication between server and proxy. Yes, so it is still used, but it now has completely different meaning. And this one, this is a little bit dangerous to talk about because it's under development now. Yes, and something may change in the final release. Yeah, so be careful here. Yes, but in general, it should work, as I will tell you. So, network discovery. Very nice feature. By the way, because I have such opportunity, how many of you are using network discovery, actually? Okay, quite a lot, quite a lot. Yeah, so you know this setup very well. Yes, you define network segment, and you need to keep the network segment quite small. Yes, otherwise you will have some issues, and you can define some checks. Okay, so how it works in Zabbix 6? In Zabbix 6 we have a single discoverer process, which works like that. IP by IP, service by service. But it looks okay, right? Or no? And again, so what happened here? So if those services are responsive, the discovery works pretty fast. But once it found something which is non-responsive, it waits. And by the way, it waits for a timeout. So increasing timeout in version 6 affects the speed of discovery. Yeah? So you can see a lot of problems here. Yes, it's affected by global timeout. It's sequential. And every time you found, or let's say, every time you are unable to find a working service, it waits for timeout, and it takes a lot of time. So in version 7, we introduced new processes. So the discoverers will be transformed to discovery workers, and as usually, if you have a lot of workers, you need to hire a manager. Yeah? So manager and worker approach. This is the new configuration screen. Looks very similar, except this one. So maximum concurrent checks 1, unlimited and custom. Actually, even 1 will work faster than current implementation. Yes, because of this. So, as I said, this is under development and some things may change, but it will look somehow like this. So you have IP range, IP addresses, and this is a discovery process. Asynchronous discovery, and then asynchronous discovery of missing devices. Yeah? But as I said, there is still some development work going on because SNMP is fully asynchronous currently, but let's say SSH are simple checks, which are currently synchronous. Yes, so I don't know what will be the final implementation. Yeah, but even if the SSH simple checks are still process-based and synchronous, it will be still much faster. Yes, because there are multiple threads used. And internal monitoring. Yes, of course, we have internal monitoring, so you can monitor the performance of discoverers, of workers, so you can tune them if needed. Okay, that was all from me this year.
Well, not exactly all. We have a couple of questions for you, Kaspars. So one is relatively simple and also not. So there was an idea of auto-tuning of start SNMP, start agent, pollers, and so on. So do we need to tune them still manually, or they will auto-tune themselves?
Okay, so as I told, you still need to change the start agent pollers parameter in config file, yes? But now you are doing it in bigger steps, yes? So, okay, maybe you are not sure that like one agent poller will be enough. Start 5. You know, don't start 500, start 5, which means you have a theoretical limit of 5,000 values per second. Yeah? So, you know, it is auto-tuning, yes? Just add correct parameters at the beginning.
And surprisingly quite a question we encounter a lot, but still, can we then just make 1,000 of those at the very beginning?
You can, but why? The question is why, yeah? You can. There is still, you know, there is a range, yes? When you open configuration, you can see from to, yes? And I think there was 1,000, yeah? Which will give you 1,000 by 1,000, which is which is million. 1 million.
Yeah.
1 million NVPS. Will your database be able to handle 1 million NVPS, right? So, yeah. But you can.
Thank you for the answers.
Okay, yeah, thank you.